Tell us something about your son. How did you feel at that time when you got the news that you are having a kid first time? What was your experience? Then we'll share.
Oh, I don't know how interesting those are, but the news meant a lot of responsibility. Till then, it was a lot of fun. So, so that was there, and then there was a lot of expectation right till the first son was born, and for the first time, I took a lot of leave. My son was born at my parents' home in CFRI. And he was born in Dhanbad. Then I left for office, came to Bangalore, and then I went on an extended trip to US. So I met my son really, after birth. Then I met him when he was 10 months old. So this was about my first son. But then after, then after that, of course, it was a lot of fun. And the second son arrived almost immediately, but with him, we were together. And then bringing them up together, it was a very interesting thing. I made a lot of mistakes, so to say, at that point in time, because I treated my older guy. See, he's less than 2 years old. But I treated him like he was much older, because when one is 6 months and one is 2 years and something, the difference is huge. So he used to get a lot of scolding. And that is something that I realized in a delayed manner, that's not correct. I'm treating the two guys differently. So then I built the theory that that my younger son was having an advantage, because mistakes I was making with my older son, or I made those mistakes, I was trying to correct. So the statement sometimes people make that the same children, same parents, see how they have grown up differently. Now I believe that no, you don't get the same parents. Okay, so I'm giving here my example, but there would be parents are also going through their journey, and then there'll be different ups and downs. So probably in Ganesha's case, I think they have got the same parents, but in most other cases, you don't get the same parents.
But the one thing which Kalyan said in the beginning,
what you mentioned about children with a slight age gap, I think generally applies for all kids. After the second kid is born, the first kid does get less attention, and sometimes that leads to a bit more maturity and bit more, where always you find the second kid in the family is a bit more naughty and irresponsible, or if you can say that, and the first son is more responsible, first child is more responsible. I think that's generally happens with every family. I don't know whether it's a mistake. It could be, that could lead to positivity also. The sense that the first child matures early. And coming to my own kids, I had twins. They were the first in both our families' side. My wife Akila's side, there were no twins. My side, there were no twins in the history. So it was very exciting to learn, first of all, that we were going to get twins. Then, of course, when they were born, both of them were totally, they were not lookalikes. Biologically, they were from two different cords or whatever. And one went after me, and you could say one went after the mother. And as they grew up, it was very fascinating, because there were two different kids being brought up, born at the same time. Each one had totally different likes, dislikes, and different character, obviously. So it was like bringing up two different kids together at the same time. And still, they of course had their bonding as twins, whatever, which only twins can have. But otherwise, it was totally different in terms of likes, dislike, character, attitude, everything was different. Just to tell you a small example, during school days, holidays, they were supposed to write a book report after reading a novel. So one Aditya used to read that book sincerely, write it down, write a good book review after reading the book. Ashwin never used to read the book. On the last day, he will read the front cover, inside introduction, last write something and submit. Obviously, he realized that the teacher is not going to read all the 40 book reviews written by the student. She was just going to check whether, they have actually written a book review or not. That's the only thing teacher is going to check. So you could say one was smart, the other was hardworking. So it was, in many ways, it was totally, different and fascinating to bring them up over the years.
Hari, we've not heard you. So if you could come in and just introduce yourself as a father first, and let's begin the conversation after that.
Yeah, I think I should be the least experienced father here. So I've basically been absorbing from the experiences of the more experienced fathers. So I am the father of a 1.5-year-old girl child named Anahata. And so like I have heard about some trends from the others, and it's very interesting to know. But what I would like to share here is what fascinates me is how these trends are changing over time. And I have a nice experience from my own life to share that when I was born, my father couldn't see me till I was 3 years old because he was working for the central government, and they were very strict with leaves and all that. And at the time he was positioned in some far off village and he couldn't get a leave, and my mom was in Bangalore. So only when I was 3 months old, he saw me first. But on the other hand, what happened was I now work in a private company, and I can log on and work remotely and everything. So when my child was born, my wife was facing some health challenges, and it was clear to us that she couldn't manage on her own. And back then my mom had a large joint family to help, which we didn't have. So on the other hand, I took 3 months off. So for the first 3 months of my daughter's life, I was with her. I got to be with her completely. And what I realized was definitely, it set me back on my career, and I missed out on a few things with the work and all that. But to watch my daughter's first step and watch her say her first words, I felt that is also a kind of promotion, and probably that's a better promotion than some percentage you can get at work or some designation you can put in LinkedIn, right? This felt a lot more meaningful. And this is not a stray incidence. Lots of my friends are doing such things. They are taking more time off to spend time with their children. And another change that I see is, even 10-15 years back, parents used to think, what new toy or what new gadget can I give my child? But now I think people realize more that more than those gadgets, their time is what matters more, right? So sometimes you buy a 10,000 rupee toy and the child ignores it and plays with a 20 rupee water bottle, right? So if you engage, it all depends on, even if with the 20 rupee water bottle, you can play an engaging game with the child, that's what the child wants. So people are realizing these things, and both fathers and mothers are, they are evolving, and that's what really fascinates me about being a father now.
That's such a profound, realization and sharing. Thank you so much.
So
that truly sets the tone. And also, I really wanted to bring in this question, but before that, you have brought in this fantastic answer. I really wanted to hear also from the other fathers that it is a very visible distinction that we are seeing now. Our role model of fatherhood has been that father is somewhere away at work, will come back and scold you. So better eat your food, better do your homework. And even the portrayals are like, typical Amrish Puri kind of a father. So one, grunt and everybody would run away back to their rooms. Starting from there, and with all the different fathers we have here on the panel, and with different age of these fathers, I'm very interested to hear from each one of you. What is the role model? It doesn't have to be your father, as share only as much as you feel comfortable with, but your father, uncle, neighborhood, films that you watched about, father-son relationships. what was your example when you grew up and what changed when you became a father yourself? So if
Yes.
we can go, I mean, Madhukar, if I can please start with you.
Father figures in your life.
First, I would like to second Kalyan. He said that before becoming a father, it was fun. Then once you become a father, a sense of responsibility creeps in. That happened with me also. The moment I became a father, I had some changes in my inner thing, some chemical locha, you can say. Then I started thinking now that I am having another responsibility, so I have to behave responsibly. I was posted away from Dhanbad where my son was born. My wife took care of my son. I used to come down quite often, every weekend, 10 days, 5 days. And every time I used to bring something for him. Anything. Even if I brought a casserole for the house, I used to give it to him. Ki, lo bhai, this is for you. Because two things happen for a father, any father. If you have a child, you see your image in that baby, as extended image of yourself. And you want to see कि हमको जो नहीं मिला इसको मिलना चाहिए, and he should or she should be taken care of properly, better than what I have had in my life, and then try to give your best. Education and other things, as my friend Ganesh said, that is the mother's domain. Bringing up, taking care of small things, but then you from a distance you keep an eye and try to image yourself on that little thing. I remember one good event which I had with my son. I came down, it was a summer evening and it was very hot, Dhanbad. And so I took my son upstairs, ki chalo chhat pe sote hain. We laid down our bed and all. And I started narrating him stories. I'm very good at it. And I was just gazing the sky. So Dhanbad is, I think, happens to be on the international. Planes do crisscross at very high altitude, but you can count them. So I have counted many a times. Right from night to morning, you will see that 50 or 60 planes crosses through that area. So I started telling him, Dekho, this is a plane and they carry a lot of rich people and all those things. My son was very inquisitive, always asking me questions. And he always come up with one-line answers. So that day I told him कि देखो इसमें बहुत पैसा उसा भी लेके चलते हैं लोग. If it comes down ना, and if a box falls here, I will pick it up and will be very rich and all. So he saw me, Papa, why do you work at Ranchi? There are so many offices over here. Why don't you join any office over here? Well, no, my office is different. We don't have that branch over here. Then he stayed still for a while and then he said, Acha, Papa, let the plane fall down, then we'll bring you back. So that incident I remember. He was so concerned about me. So that brings the little joys in your life that creeps in. Sometimes they irritate you, but most often little answers, little incidents make you very happy, and that is imprinted in your mind, and you ponder over it and be happy at times. This is what I have had experienced, and I have got many experiences. But I would like to hear many other friends over there.
If
What
you
are
could
their
give us some understanding of how this was your experience as a father and your feelings as a father, how was that different from what you had experienced from the father figures in your life? So, because you must have had some kind of a perception of what fatherhood would mean to you because of the kind of experiences or without because of the kind of perception you had about fatherhood from your childhood experiences.
asking me?
Yes.
Okay. No, I was brought up in a joint family, and my father was a manager. He was a mining engineer, so he had got plenty of responsibilities and all those things. So I did miss him at times when he was away, but that vacuum was not there because uncles, brothers, cousins, they were there. So we used to play around, study around, and then we used to forget everything. Well, he used to take care of me very nicely, the same way I am taking care of my son, and this is a universal phenomenon. Every father,
Someone has,
whichever,
okay. Continue.
every father tries his level best to see that his son or daughter is taken care of properly. Material needs, emotional needs, and all those things. But then the double parenting is very important. Father and mother both are very important. If you don't have one, then it's difficult for the child to grow properly. That's what I had in my life. But then my father took good care of me. But if you lose a mom, then that vacuum is very difficult to fill up, and vice versa. So my experience was different from what I have given to my son and all, because he is being taken care of, and my daughter also, she is also being taken care of properly.
Coming to maybe Ganesh, if you would tell us a little bit about the perceptions of fatherhood that changed before and after becoming a father.
Okay. See, this perception is always that dads are strict. I used to think my dad was strict. I think I'm a very liberal father, but my sons say differently, that I'm a strict father. I still think I'm very liberal, but my sons don't agree. And whenever we have some argument discussion, they say dad is very strict. He doesn't take any other point of view into account before deciding things for us or so. So I think it's always a generation gap, and the perception is always that dad is strict, moms are more liberal, and moms listen more. That is something which will go on for generations. I mean, that's perpetual. And coming to role models, I don't think you can really have role models for dad, because you bring up children subconsciously. I mean, you do things, you don't think, this is how my dad was, this person was, etc. But only point I would like to make is that kids learn from fathers subconsciously. They don't really learn like you teach in school, you teach the kids. Especially as teenagers, you can't tell them what to do. They have a rebellious streak within them. Always, all teenagers have rebellious streak within them. But I think you can teach them by being an example. That's how you teach them. I mean, they subconsciously absorb what you're doing, what you have achieved or whatever you've done, and then they learn from that. You can't teach kids beyond, say, 8th standard or 7th standard what to do. They have peer pressure. They learn more from their classmates or children. Their ambitions also depend on what their classmates are doing. That is why I think most parents try to put their children in good schools, because the other children are doing well and going to IITs and IIMs and things like that. So they also try to become, apply for IIM and other things. So it is more in teenage years, I think you become a role model by being an example. You can't teach kids anything. In fact, if you teach them something, they'll probably do the opposite thing of what you have taught them. That is, I think, in general applies everywhere. My father, of course, we lived in a different generation where even going out to eat in a hotel is, was once in a blue moon kind of thing. Today, children order by Swiggy. I mean, all these things change. You can't generalize on that. But I think as role models, you have to be an example as a parent. You can't teach kids anything. That's all.
But mothers have role models. I mean, a good mother is somebody who sacrifices, who feeds first before eating herself. So mothers have role models. And we have a lot of portrayals in media. Prabhash, if I may invite you to talk about role models, and what do you think? Do fathers have role models, or do nobody
but mothers also sacrifice? I beg to differ. You said mothers sacrifice a lot. Fathers also sacrifice a lot.
No, I don't say that. What I'm saying is role model, like portrayal. The good mother versus bad mother is like, so there is a portrayal.
There is no bad mother.
Yeah, so honestly, I think let me come in here.
Yeah.
So first, coming back to that Amrish Puri example that he gave. So my friends used to call my father Hitler. So the simple, they will come up to the door and they will say, Hitler ghar pe hai kya? Agar hai to they will turn around and go back. Okay, but if you look at them now, the one father they are most comfortable with talking to for hours together, it still happens to be my father. So for all of my friends, so there is a certain kind of an aura that you sometimes deliberately create, because that's also important. And we have also transitioned from generation. Like our generation, it was absolutely okay to kind of scare a child into submission also, and that somebody had to play that role at home. Today, no child gets scared because you get angry, you know. So things are, to that extent, they're changing. But as a role model, my entire growing up year, the one song which carried me was a Phil Collins song. It said, when I grow up to be a man like my father was when I was young, I hope to make him proud of me, proud enough to call me his son, So I think fathers become very important role models. For me, my father was, so if you go through my Facebook post, you will see these stories that I write, the stories of how my mother has transitioned from a koile ka chulha to a dimple gas stove, the gravity powered gas stoves that used to be the kerosene stoves that used to be there, to a borrowed gas stove because some friend was kind enough to give a pass on the queue, to now when you have chimneys and hobs at home. And similarly, you will also have these fatherly stories where you will open the door and you'll find 2 pairs of trousers and 2 pairs of shirts behind the door. And this is all the position that your father actually had, despite being a gadgeted officer in a very respectable position. So you always had these role models to think about. So I think they are very balanced role models at home that you see, both sides, both from what mothers do. And I don't want to talk about sacrifices, because I think every generation makes their own sets of sacrifices. But in terms of what they offer as examples to the children, and if you can live with those examples, then, and you can make those examples for your own kids as well, then I think it's a good way of being parents. And true. To that extent, I agree with Ganesh completely.
Yeah.
That you can't really have whiteboard lessons at home.
Father's wardrobes is definitely the most starved. There's, I mean, I'm stereotyping perhaps, but very, very well said. Yeah. So we don't think about it often. We choose our own, puja shopping. Now is the puja shopping season, so to say, but we often don't remember that he just has one gray shirt, one white shirt, one blue shirt.
And abhi chalega was one of the most common sentences I heard at home, from either parents, that you heard that abhi ye chal jayega. Matlab, you knew that it was already past its expiry date, but they are okay to let it continue for a little while more, so that the next school fee can be paid, or maybe the next school picnic can be paid for, whatever else. So to that extent, I think the role models haven't really changed. They are the same. You want to give the same life lessons to your kids, saying that, look, nothing comes for free. You need to work hard for it. And hence it is important to also learn when to and how often to say no. You do it too often, you have a rebellion at hand. You don't do it enough number of times, then your children believe that they are going to inherit that everything that you have created, and they don't need to work hard for their own struggles in life. So yes, like my wife, there are only 3 daughters, no sons in the family. So that entire stereotype of sons taking care of their parents was killed in my in-laws' side. There are 3 daughters who are amazing care providers for their own parents. My wife, as I speak, is in Patna because she went yesterday afternoon to drop her parents, and she'll come back this afternoon. So she was only doing that courier job, dropping them to Patna and coming back. And 3 months back, just after the first unlock, this is exactly the same thing she followed. She went to Patna just to pick them up after the flight started. So, and I've seen many sons not do this, So there are a lot of stereotypes which are getting killed. And I think one of the biggest one is the gender stereotype of who needs to do what. Like, for example, when I quit, I was completely comfortable quitting my well-paying job because I did not believe in the fact that I need to take care of my wife and child. I said, why don't you do that for me? And so for 3 years, I took 50,000 rupees as pocket money from my wife so that my company could survive and grow. So every month diligently she would
That's a brilliant role model. That's awesome.
You yourself have become a role model.
So when we were quoting in college, and one of the things, my ambitions, personal ambitions, he asked me was, I said, look, my personal ambition is for you to be able to give me 25,000 rupees pocket money every month, so that I'd quit doing everything else and sit at home. So, and then in 2014 September, I told her it's now time for you to keep your promise. So while I don't intend to sit at home, I do want that pocket money.
That is
inflation adjusted.
Okay. So Hari, we've not heard from you. Where is Hari?
Yes.
And if we
So
could have your version also of what a father figure would mean to you, and what would your perception of fatherhood be because of your experiences, right?
Sure, absolutely. I'd like to share three role models. First is, of course, my own father. I'm an author today, and even for my day job, I do writing, and that's purely because of him. So, what happened was he actually filled our house with books. I mean, that's how he is. In the wardrobes, the clothes would be pushed to one corner, and even that space would be taken away from books for books. But the thing was, he never pushed me to do it. I mean, there was this phase where I was playing video games all the time and cricket all the time and never reading, but even then he just let me be. But slowly, because of the environment and because he was already reading, always reading books and sharing something or the other, or some article he would write and come in the newspaper, slowly that got me interested, and over time I also started writing, and that's how my career has shaped. So obviously, he's the first role model, and another is an uncle of mine. And the thing about him is, my parents, they sometimes get a little anxious, right? I am somebody who likes to try wacky things and adventurous things and experimental things and all that. So one instance of that is I quit my job, I think some 4 5 years back, to try something on my own. So everybody, all parents, relatives, and all, uh, everyone's first response would be, "You're in a good job. What are you doing? Have you thought through it?" But this uncle, he was like, the moment his first reaction was excitement, and I was shocked. He was like, "Wow, you're going to do this!" And he's not like somebody in this. He is also pretty old. Like, he's in his 70s now. So for somebody from that place to immediately get excited, and this is not just one example. It's like, when even if it's something like joining a sports class for his children, or you want to do anything on your own, his first response is he encourages and he appreciates and he's thrilled for you. And that is something that I haven't seen in many parents, because whenever their children go off the track in any way, their first response is uh, anxiety. And often whenever children want to try something new, it's their parents whom they are looking for to back them up, but that doesn't happen. So this is something that really motivated me. And the third thing I would like to come back to the Amrish Puri point. Definitely, I think the role models are changing. Children, many children, though these days, though Amrish Puri is a great actor, uh, they don't know him. Many young people, but one person they know a lot is this actor called Pankaj Tripathi. So many of you would have seen this movie called Gunjan Saxena about a Kargil girl. That movie got a lot of flack for showing our Air Force and all not in the most accurate way, and the critics didn't call it a great movie, but everybody appreciated Pankaj Tripathi's role as a dad. What happens in the movie is, the girl wants to become an Air Force pilot. Her mom doesn't support her. Her brother is against her. The other men in the Air Force give her a tough time. But this dad is the safe space that this girl can come back to. I mean, imagine a movie like this even in the 90s or early 2000s. You never had any and you couldn't think of it, right? Dad would be the first person to say, I have already seen a boy for you, get married, right? And the mom would be the one she would go crying to. So Pankaj Tripathi is the new, model dad for our generation, and we will see more such roles. And I think we are moving from the Amrish Puri days to the Pankaj Tripathi days, and that's a good sign. And these are three role models that I can share.
Hari, nice that you mentioned that you are an author. So I was just wondering, you write fiction, right?
Yes.
So if I would like, I'm just out of curiosity, what kind of shift or what kind of perception building happens in literature or writing, in novels, or the kind of perception, or you must have had female characters in your, so what kind of depiction or portrayal of gender-based characters have you been associated with, and what would be your take on that?
So I think, as an artist and as a writer, what is most important is, there are all kinds of people in this world, right? There are these, I don't think we can say it won't be honest for an artist to kind of portray all dads are going to be like this, all moms are going to be like this. If I write 5 stories, there will have to be 5 different dads, 5 different moms. Maybe one is, one is where the dad has the upper hand and controls the house, but it also happens in many houses all along that the woman, has the most agency and gets a lot of say, and, uh, it also happens that women emotionally trouble fathers. So I think as artists, we have to cover the entire range. But having done that, the way the story ends, the message it leaves behind, that is important, and that should be like, we have to transcend these stereotypes, and what we need to do is, what the situation demands. That's how I would look at it. I mean, that takes precedence over stereotypes. Like we already heard, if there's a situation where the wife has to earn and the husband has to do something else, we have to go ahead and do that. But the other way is also fine. I mean, another problem that I see these times is, there are these houses where people are perfectly happy with the husband going out earning, and the wife is happy to take care of the children. That is her own choice. But they find that difficult to do in today's world, because people will tell her, you are falling back, you are losing out an opportunity. I recently saw a post which worded like, women lose their best years of their life to bring up children. I mean, what sense does it make to, say that raising up a child is a loss? Like I said, right, I myself view it as a big promotion, right? So the thing is, that's how I would like to write my stories. You can have any kind of a situation, and what we must do should be neither to adhere to a stereotype, nor should we do it with the sole aim of breaking away with the stereotype. If fitting to the stereotype is what works best for your family, do that. So that's how I would approach this situation.
So that is what I was curious about. Is there any conscious
I would just like to make one point about this role model and stereotype about the father. And see, this Amrish Puri kind of image for fathers is mostly for sons. As far as daughters are concerned, I think they are more like Alok Nath and Pankaj Tripathi, whom Hari mentioned. For sons, fathers are always strict and disciplinarians. For daughters, I think fathers are more soft and supporting.
Amrish Puri was
it's a gender stereotype, but that's what it has been. I think Amrish Puri for sons and Alok Nath for daughters is what it is.
Alok Nath is dangerous for daughters. Hashtag. But Kalyan,
maybe the wrong example, but what I meant was they're not the.
I understand. I'm just joking.
And the portrayal.
Joking, but not joking.
The idea was to bring out the portrayal of genders, whether it's in literature or in movies or in the kind. So that is why, because he's an author, so I wanted to know. I was just curious as to, is there any conscious effort or a consciousness of how the various genders are being, because even the negative aspects of, or the negative traits of a villainish character or a vampirish character, they are also some ways linked to stereotyping. So women would, while women would be the jealous and the different kind of villainish characters that we would associate with women, and different kind of violent, aggressive villainish characters that we would associate with men. So is there any conscious or unconscious presence of all these perceptions? That is what I was curious about. But I think Hari made it.
I think what Nidhi is saying is very interesting. I think it's not just Disney fairy tales which says that, damsel in distress sitting on tall towers with long hair and fair skin and silky skin, etc. And Prince Charming comes on horseback and saves the girl. I think even the folk tales we have heard, and local Indian folk tales, one king and two queens. It was a very common, so once upon a time there was a king and his two queens. So, and the pretty one was the bad one, and the sad one was crying and never had a child and never had a boy child. So let's be honest about it. There are stories, there are stereotypes, and as artists, I mean, this is a bigger, conversation where we have to, I think, have a different session altogether, that what is the social responsibility of an artist? Because at the end of the day, what we see on screen or what we read in books affect the, impressionable young minds. And we think that, okay, we have to fall in love like that, singing songs behind the trees. Okay, we have to, do this, etc. Maa ki hath ki roti. But I want to come to you, Kalyan, with a very different topic. What is it, if you can remember something, that some kind of mischief, anything that you might have done in your childhood that you don't want your children to know at all, never?
Yeah, no at all, yes. You don't want your children to know what you might have done in your childhood, right? Interesting.
No, actually, as a child, I was a good child. I don't think that I did.
Wrong. Question to the wrong person.
Okay, Ganesh, pass to you.
Yeah, let's pass it to either.
Mischief started, when I became an adult, and I have made a lot of mistakes. Okay, as a child, means when say early childhood, when I was in school and with my parents, I think I did not give them any headache. So that was fine. My children also did not give me. So that's okay. Well, now I would like to take on the earlier question, on role model, which I did not take. My role model was my father, and he influenced me a lot. And he grew up from a very poverty-stricken background, and so he struggled through his life. And at a certain stage, when he was in school and in his village, there was some benevolent prince in a royal family who sponsored his school education first, and then his college and university education, and then finally he did well. And so his attitude was that my son should not go through all that. And he understood that education made the difference to him, so that his son should get the best education. So that was one thing that he had. The other thing was that he never put any pressure. He's the most generous man that I could think of. And he's for those of you who know Bengali, his favorite statement to my mother will be "Bhalobasha diye joy karo." So win him through love, or win people through love. And that was a philosophy that he had, not just with me but everybody else. But this I used to hear him tell my mother, because see, actually, if somebody is lenient, somebody else has to be strict. So my mother had to do the balancing role. Another thing that my mother was concerned, and actually this is a point I had, that you talked of fatherhood. I think, the discussion should have been on parenthood, and both parents should have been present, father and mother, and both have a very important role. I think Madhukar made a point on single father, both parents are needed. Yes, I believe both parents are needed. And if both parents are putting on a balancing role, which I saw with my father and mother, or between me and my wife, then I think it is even better. Another thing is, see, my mother was concerned. I saw that my father never refused anything to me. And it's not that I asked for the 10,000 rupee gadget, but even those days, the 5 rupee gadget or the 1 rupee pencil box, which may not be needed, but he never refused anything. And my mother will be concerned. And my mother, when she talks to my father, he doesn't care. No, whatever he wants, you should give. It is our it is our happiness to give, and so on. But she will tell, I remember as early as maybe I was in class 2 or whatever, she discussed my father's salary with me. And that was something like 500 rupees. 500 rupees those days, of course, one could manage a middle class family. And then she used to, my father never worried about money, and that may be true in many families. So my mother will be diligent about every 10 paisa that was spent. So she had a register every day, how much was spent. So she will show me that register, so this is the money situation. So from class 2 or 3, she taught me to be reasonable in whatever I do. So don't ask your father anything, you ask me, because the answer is he will say yes. So I learned to be responsible. The other thing is, given the background he came, his relatives from the village were always short of money. So my father, by the end of the month, all the money will be over. So till very much before retirement, till the time I was earning, say that was always the case. He never had any money left at the end of the month, because somebody or the other will have a need, and then he will give it away. If he has the money, he will give it away. So that was also a deep influence that I had. And then I would remember the discussion. Sometime my mother will say that no, you should be responsible. Then he will say, see, again, something in Bengali translation is like, God has given, God will give. Okay, so that was, he had that kind of that kind of, you can say, acceptance that yes, God takes care and I don't need to worry about the future. So fortunately, he had a situation where he did not have to worry about the future. Okay, so that also was a deep influence that I had. So I could have many such stories, but the point is that yes, my father was my role model. Now, I worked in what is now called the IT industry. Now, in the 80s, that was called, when I joined, that was called the computer industry. And the late 80s, early 90s, the trend was that anybody who could go abroad would go abroad. Anybody is a very broad term. Maybe 80%, 70% of the people, they viewed like that. If I can go abroad, I will. So I am among those who did not want to. And I remember clearly, because people used to ask, and I used to say that, see, the relationship I had with my father, I want my sons to have that relationship with me. And I think that being in America won't make that possible. You could say that is my bias. Okay, on America versus India, but I had that bias. I had my temporary trips to US to to understand and form my biases. So that was the reason I stayed. So I wanted that he should be my children should be studying in India, and they should grow up here, and we should grow up. So that was, and I felt that as we that was an experience, of course, I was not prepared for, because I didn't know what my father went through as a father. But when my sons were growing up, I felt that I was growing up all over again. So it was a great learning experience for me. And to that extent, see, we talked of sacrifice, etc. I don't think I have done any sacrifice. I have enjoyed, whether my wife believes she has done sacrifice or not, we need to ask her. But, I have enjoyed through my fatherhood. But that's also because all the details and the rigor has been taken care of by my wife. Okay, so that's also true. That was there all along. But the thing is, fatherhood for me was a great learning experience. I'm just moving on to a different topic because that's in flow. See, when my sons would learn something, and see when they were at home, and my sons will talk about something, so they were 2 years old, 3 years old, then I would look at them and then think that, see, they are telling all this, which is great, but I have taught them and I knew exactly how they learned it. So I used to think that, okay, when will they learn on their own? Okay, now, and after that, then they went to school. And then they started talking things that I did not teach. So either they learned it from teachers or from textbook or from their friends. So then I was happy that, okay, so they are learning things that I haven't taught them. But still, I knew what they were learning. Now, then came a stage, and that comes maybe class 6, 7, 8, I don't recall exactly. Then they were talking things that I did not know. So that was the third stage of learning. And then I was even happier that I'm just talking of how I was growing up here. So now they are learning things. The third stage, they are learning things that I didn't know. But there was a fourth stage that I was not prepared for, and then at a certain stage we would have a discussion, and that was among equals. And then my sons will ask, okay, how did you learn this? so they were surprised that I knew it, So that becomes another stage in the learning journey. But this is to say that, so I thoroughly enjoyed it my way as it was happening.
That
Very
was,
interesting.
I cannot.
Yeah, can I briefly say a few things about what Kalyan said? One is about the struggle of parents to bring you up. I think we realized that only after we become a dad. When we were kids, we never realized they were struggling because we didn't want anything. Of course, wants were minimum in those days. That is a separate thing. And even I tell my kids that I have worked hard to get you where you are, but they don't really realize that because they've got everything. And that's not the age where they think about all these things. Probably they will think about what I went through only when they are adults or when they are have kids of their own. So every generation, even my dad, I think all three of us, at least I know about Kalyan, Madhukar and myself, are from middle class backgrounds in a public sector parent, working in public sector and, earning. But we never wanted for anything. And we never realized, what was not available to us, we were not aware of. Probably ignorance is bliss in those days. And only thing my father used to tell me was, don't ask me for this and that. I will pay for your education. You study as long as you want. I will pay your fees. Education is the only thing I can give you. I cannot give you material thing. This was one lesson he used to tell me around my 11th or 12th. So that was what he gave me, was education and probably values rather than all material things. Today, I tell my kid the same thing, but it's not their age to go into these kind of deep thinking. They just go on with life. At probably their age, I also used to just get on with life and do whatever happened. So that is one thing. The second point was the pressure on kids. I think as parents, every parent subconsciously expects their kids to fulfill their own dreams. Probably Kalyan, I don't know, because he has probably achieved his dreams. Everyone wants to go to IIT or whatever their aspiration. If they have not achieved it, they want, and they put pressure on their kids to achieve those aspirations. And I was very conscious. I said, no, I will not put any pressure on my kids academically or do this, do that. I will give them an opportunity, but they are free to do whatever they want. And I used to advise others also, parents, please don't put pressure on your kids to do this or do that in IIT, things like that. But what happened was, when my own kids came up to their 10th or 12th board exams, I became a different guy. I became this average parent and started putting pressure. So we can advise whatever we want about others' kids, but when it comes to your own kids, a little bit of that surfaces, and you also start. You have to achieve the balance between freedom for your kids to do whatever they want, and your worry that they may go astray. So that balance, again, the same thing with providing material comforts. You obviously want to give them a better life than what you yourself had, but at the same time, you want to teach them values that materialistic things are not important. So where do you put a stop? Is it an iPhone that they ask for, you don't buy them that, or is it something else? The balance between giving them a comfortable life and teaching them values, I think that's a gray area again in parenting. That dilemma always confronts you, especially with the mother butting in and saying, kid is asking for this, why don't you buy him? Or why don't you give him permission for this or that? That is a gray area where parenting comes between imposing your values and, giving them freedom.
So one of the things that I personally believe in this quote, which has been attributed to John Lennon a lot, which says that, what do you want to become when you grow up? And he says, I want to be happy. And the teacher says that, look, you haven't understood the question. And he said, look, you haven't understood life. So I genuinely believe that the core to, bringing up children is happiness. as parents, we understand the value of money and what the portion of happiness that money brings to your life, because when you can't pay your EMIs, then you do remember that money is important. But I think happiness is core and right at the center of this entire debate on what you want your children to be, or what kind of aspiration you have for your children. For example, my daughter told us in class 5, in fact, she's pretty smart for her age. Now she's 13, but even in 5th standard, once we were going through her portfolio, and then she said, "What is this?" So we said, "This is your portfolio of what we want to invest in your education." And then she looked at it. She said, "But I want to become a writer. How much does it cost to become a writer?" So then I said, "No, not much. Life lessons. That's what it costs to become a writer." Then she said, "Why don't you spend this money on yourself?" This was in 5th standard. Now she's now in 9th, and the aspiration for her hasn't changed. Now the question is on us: do we want a writer to be lost and an engineer to be born, or not? Now we believe a writer should not be lost, because a writer is worth, again biases, but a writer is worth hundreds of engineers because of the influence that they have on other people, right? As compared, so I wouldn't want that to be lost. But you do have fears, you do know that how easy it is to become a writer today, but how difficult it has become to get paid for it, so there's a very strange. So when I was her age, perhaps it was more difficult to become a writer than to be paid for it, because once you got acknowledged as a writer, then it was 100% sure that you're also being paid for it. Today, the situation has changed. It's become easy to become a writer, but difficult to get paid for it, which means it may or may not be a viable career option. So as parents, what do you do? So that's a dilemma you always live with. And one of the things that we are doing now, 9th standard means 10th is around the corner, right? Half the 9th has gone into COVID. So one of the things I tell her is, look, if there's a question in your paper to which you don't know the answers, I'm absolutely fine if you don't get marks for that. But if there's a question for which you knew the answer, but because you were not careful about it, and hence you could not get those marks, then I would say that you have kind of frittered away your advantage. So I don't want you to look at your papers from a marks perspective, but I want to look at you, are you frittering away your advantage, or are you not? If you're not, I'm perfectly okay with any marks that you get. But if you are, then as any other parent, I tell her that, look, once you become an adult and you can manage your own affairs, I have very little or limited role in your life. And at that point, I'll stop being judgmental. Till that time, I have all the right to be. But the good part is that we do tend to have adult to adult conversation. I consider her as an adult, because I think that a lot of her opinions are adult opinions. And hence, even at a 13.5 age, we tend to have conversations which 8 out of 10 times are conversation of equals, not a parent-child conversation. And hence, for example, we are not interfered in a career choice, despite somewhere in our back of our mind, perhaps knowing that maybe it's too early to decide for a career. But then what is too early or too late, you don't know. Because for many students, it will be decided by the 10th or 11th standard, which itself is too early, right? And then one of my deepest belief is that, whatever you do, you will end up doing it for 40 years of your life. So there is no hurry. So that I genuinely believe in. So like a friend's child after 12 wanted to take a break, and the father was worried, comes from the exercises family again, that what is he doing? Because he had a foreign offer for a foreign university for his undergrad, but he wanted to take a break because we were not sure whether he wanted to study aeronautical engineering. So then the father approached me and said, "Professor, isko samjhao." I said, "Well, kya samjhana hai?" So just speak to him. So I spoke to him. Then I went back to the father. I said, "Your child is very smart. Why do you want me to samjhao him?" So then he said, "But uncle, I don't want to do this this year, I'm sure." I said, "ठीक है, तो क्या करो? घर पे बैठोगे?" नहीं, घर पे भी नहीं बैठना है, कुछ कर लेता हूँ. ठीक है, कल से मेरे ऑफिस आ जाओ. Okay. At the end of that 4 months, he said, now I know what I want to do. I said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "I want to go into financial services, understand the markets, join a hedge fund perhaps later." I said, "ठीक है, वो मेरे यहाँ कैसे समझना है? मेरा तो I have a strategy and people consulting business. I don't have a hedge fund. He said, no, but I've understood what I want to do, because while I was doing research on various companies for you, I realized this is what I enjoy doing. I said, "ठीक है, तो अभी क्या करना है?" He said, now I don't want to do internship under you. I want to do an internship in a hedge fund or a equal financial services company. So I said, "ठीक है." Then he joined Zerodha as an intern. Those of you who know Zerodha, then you know how fast it has grown into the entire stock management new age company. And there he worked for 4 months as an intern. And you won't believe it, as somebody who has not yet done his first year of graduation, he has now got an offer from Zerodha which is equivalent to any management training after an MBA. So now the second challenge for father कि एक undergraduate का career कितना choices होता है later in life, right? And they are all traditional people like us sitting here who will look at your MBA degree before they decide to even interview you. So these are very valid concerns. So he said अभी इसको समझा कि अपनी नौकरी ज्वाइन कर लेगा तो कभी पढ़ेगा ही नहीं. So
on a lighter vein, Prabhash, the best way to find out what your kid wants to do is to put them in engineering today. And if she wants to be a writer, put her in IIM. I think the IIM produces more writers than management graduates these days.
Yeah. So I had to sat that person again. I said, boss, देखो, नौकरी तो मिल गई तुम्हें. In fact, I trust me when I say that you are getting an offer which is equivalent to any tier 2 MBA, which means by the time you actually reach your MBA age, your salary would be a tier 1 MBA offer. So which is not bad, but there are risks associated with this world. And you must live with those risks, while you try to change the world.
You're bringing such a profound point, Prabhash, if I may just interject over here. I mean, I'm of course much younger than most of you, but what you bring in is a very profound point, and to think about it just in a slightly removed perspective, that our education system totally still operates on the industrial age model, which is to where men and not women, men, I say that very carefully because I'm very conscious of the gender words I use in the mainstreamed way. Men used to work beside machines, then machine was working for men, and now we are hopefully from industrial age into knowledge age of accessing internet data. Now we are perhaps hopefully, fingers crossed, moving into the age of wisdom, where machines can really do everything we were doing, and the only way to be human is to be human. And just as you said, careers, it will be a choice good for next 40 years. Even that paradigm is getting shattered in a big way. Many of us, not even in our 40s, but in our mid-30s, are kind of dismantling, or, I would say not dismantling outside, but like kind of disillusioning ourselves with that myth that, this is what I wanted to become, this is what I want to do with my one life. We are realizing it's one life. We are like, more than our education and our degrees. So there's a lot of things going on, and you cannot separate career from personal lives or individual sense of self. From here, I just wanted to, come a little around to, in a little indirect way, also bring to question a few of the ideas, because when we were children, we saw our fathers would go to work, come back home, change clothes, take a wash, and then we will belong to the family. The work section of our life and the family section and the relationship and internal, intrapersonal, we hardly did not even think about it. I mean, we thought social engagements, professional engagements, home life. There was nothing to do with, who you are and the bigger questions in life, unless you are very consciously going the spiritual way. But now, of course, there is a huge need, there's a huge consciousness shift. One thing is the integration and the congruence of our being, which is our body, sex, sexuality. These are not subjects that are stopped at, good touch, bad touch, and knowing your body, or adolescence, or wo to hota hai teenage mein. These are actually essential conversations, and our previous generations, I also, consider myself, I mean, it has been tapering off, but there has been a lot of opaqueness. Parents and children don't talk about certain things. How accessible are you guys as parents, as fathers, and what do you think new fathers should do? Being accessible, talking about anything without guilt, because there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's our body, our mind.
So, Sinjini, just since you've brought this up, and this is really very interesting, and I would like to put in my 2 pence to it. See, yes, of course, this is very important. The areas that you feel that we've not part of a parent-child dialogue, and that is coming into the into the concept of parenting and the way things are in the. So how far? There's one very important element in this. How far it's a parental choice that what is it that I need to discuss with the children, and what is it that children may discuss with me, or is it something that the children don't even consider important whether you want to discuss or not? I want to. So you are not left with a choice. So even when Prabhash was discussing the unconventional choices that children make and the inhibitions that parents have with regards to their career choices, if we could we could also address these two aspects as to the conventional or unconventional choices children make, and what is your kind of role, what kind of your role in it, and also what is who's playing the bigger role? Is it the child playing a bigger role in bringing about the changes, or is it you who is initiating that kind of change? So adding to what Sinjani said, if we could start with Madhukar, yes, because I think he has experienced that stage when the child made an unconventional choice.
I would like to say one thing. The child is never away from the father's radar. Okay. Physically, the father may not be around, but the radar is always watching, and whatever the child is doing, the father is gauging. Because the fact is that the baby is carrying the DNA of the parent. Na? Father का DNA लेके चल रहा है. The father knows कि ये कहाँ तक जाएगा. If your son is doing something and he thinks that he's not, father is not aware, or if your daughter is doing something and she thinks that father is not aware, this is not the case. Father is very well aware of it, and it is common in most of the cases. Most fathers understand. But the father may not intervene, mother may intervene, or if it is something wrong, or if it is favorable, then also. But ऐसा नहीं है कि वो radar से बाहर. और nowadays, since things are changing at a very fast pace, BS6 आ गया, G's बदल गए. We did not have G. Now we are having 5G, 6G, and all those things. So accordingly, we have to change. So keeping that in mind, I would discuss anything with my son, anything under the sky. But yes, being from a traditional background and all those things, we may lace it up with some sugary coating or something. But yes, I would like to discuss so that you can be aware of the facts कि कहाँ जा रहा है, बच्चा कहाँ जा रहा है, whatever the age may be. We did not have that privilege when we were young. We could not discuss anything under the sky with our father. We avoided to sit in front of him. Yes, he was aware of what we were doing. That has continued since generations, and this will continue. दशरथ को पता था रावण जाएगा, उससे लड़ाई होगा राम का, and he would be going to fight it out. But then that factor of love and all those things, epic में भी ये है, आगे भी होता रहेगा. The father may remain away, but that love factor, that बेतार का जो प्रेम है ना, that will continue. Whatever be the G, 20G, 60G आ जाए, BS बदल जाए, BS 90 हो जाए, but that G will be there. And one more thing, the father will always be aware कि वो लड़का क्या कर रहा है. So सबसे important है, the most important thing is the environment in which the child is brought up. Take for example Kalyan. He just cited the situation at his house and how he studied, and he never did, and he did not crack any cranks or school में भी वो बदमाशी नहीं करता. He was a very nice guy. मतलब he was a role model as a student for us. Even there were other class students also with us, but then Kalyan, oh, this fellow is going to do something. The children followed. Ganesh, brought up in a very different atmosphere. Child also grew up in a different atmosphere. I was brought up in Dhanbad, the coalfield area, mafias and all those things. So those things So environment played a role, and that always plays a role. So my advice to all the parents is to see that the child gets a proper environment so that the future may be molded properly. Because molding is very, very important. If you don't mold it properly, then things will not come out as you wish to do. And second most important thing is fate, karma. That also has to be taken into consideration. This is the
Ganesh,
thing.
if I can come to you now, I mean, we will just keep an eye on the watch because this is such an interesting discussion. We would not, we won't find it easy to wrap it up. But now we are clocking down towards the last question. So if I can ask this question about access and discussions, what is within scope, what is outside of scope for you as a father? And for those of you who have sons and daughters, if you can also mention, what is it with your son and what is it with your daughter? Ganesh, if I can come to you.
No, actually, I would like to sum up that parenting evolves over a period of time as external circumstances change. I think on the career choices, again, in those days, government job was the ultimate. When we passed out, a government job was the ultimate. Then maybe engineering degree and IT job was the ultimate. But today, again, career choices are plenty, opportunities are plenty, information is plenty. When we lived in Sindri and, we studied, we hardly knew anything what was happening around the world because the newspapers used to come one day late in Sindri from Calcutta. But today the career options are plenty. As far as father-child equation is, today I think beyond a certain age, parent and child talk on equal terms. Till my father's death a couple of years ago, we were never equals. Father was always above. But today I think children and parents are equal. And coming to the subject of this discussion, joys of fatherhood, I think I may be too simplistic, but the joy of fatherhood sums up, one sentence is the joy of your child. I think the whole thing, what you work for is to see the smile on your child's face or the success of your child. That is all about, that is all as a fatherhood. The objective is to see your child happy. I don't think there's any other objective a parent has. So I'll conclude with that. I maybe have a couple of more minutes before I'll have to log out. Right. So I'll listen to others now.
Kalyan, what do you think about accessible conversations and how have you changed? How have you seen that change? Through your fatherhood, maybe through your eyes, the new fathers who are facing new discussions and the relevance, like the body, I again bring into context body, sex, sexuality, access, talking, awareness, sensitivity, gender, everything. We cannot separate these compartments anymore.
How much time do we have?
Another 10 minutes to wrap up. So this question takes another 4 minutes and then we just finalize.
So you stop me because there'll be plenty to say.
I know.
One thing I'd begin with is, with my father, I had a relationship that I would always argue with him and fight with him from the time I was a child. And it must have been that he encouraged that. So on and every topic we will fight, and and he would say that to remember, nowadays political topics are very important. Now to remember, like he was a big admirer of Nehru, so I used to criticize Nehru and dig up my material to criticize Nehru. And then we grew up in the Indira Gandhi days and emergency days. He was a big follower of Indira Gandhi, so I became Janata Party supporter. And my friends here would know, 1977 was a great year in our lives, so that's how I grew up. Okay, and there was a lot of, I'm just giving some examples that you can relate to, but politics was not the only thing that we discussed. We discussed a lot of ethics and values, and he will tell a lot of things which then I would disagree. And then by the time I was 35, 40, then it dawned on me, I used to make my mistakes. Then I realized that my father used to tell the right thing. So now I tell the same thing today, to whether my children or my students, that, I have decided that whatever I feel is right, I will tell you. Now it is for you to receive it or not, because I did not receive from my father and at appropriate time. So I made my mistakes. You will make your mistakes and you will learn, but you can keep this in your mind. So with that objective and with that humility, I would talk whatever I talk. So with my children also, it happened like that. They would question all the time. And I felt that that was a good thing, because they were questioning my ethics and my values and my choices and my preferences. And even last week, my sons told me, different sons in different discussions told me, like, you are biased and you have a bias against this person, and your ideological thinking, it makes you decide such things. Fine. So those become very useful for me to introspect. Okay. Now, as for career choices, I want to tell you, Ganesh is gone now, that a certain mistake I believe that I did, and I did later. See, I was working in the computers area, and I was extremely passionate about it. And I loved my area. I enjoyed my profession so long as I was involved in it. Now, I did not want to, again, that stereotype, parents try to force. So I did not want to force. So I did not want them to, I did not encourage them as they were getting interested. Okay. So, but my younger son particularly was getting interested. And then I realized that, there were, you have those national and international competitions in programming. And I didn't encourage him because I thought he's just following me. I should not. And then at a later stage, I realized, no, see, he was really so interested. Now that's his profession. He's far better than me now than I ever was. And I regret that, if from an earlier age, I would have encouraged him, he would have done a lot better. Okay. So that is one kind. My older son, he went into science. But in every profession now, and definitely science, you need to be a good programmer. And because he regrets today that he's a good programmer but not an excellent programmer, so it depends on certain other people, to get their programming advice, including his younger brother. So I believe that had I pushed a little bit of that joy of programming that I enjoyed on my children, both of them would have benefited. Okay, which I did not. I held myself back. The another point, that Sanjini, you are talking about, I wanted to talk about relationships. Okay, and that we discuss a lot. And people in our generation had a certain view of relationships. Now it is changing. And I have both boys. Okay, now, and so I don't know how girls are, and I don't have daughters, and what they think and how they are growing up today. What is their thinking? The only girl I know intensely is my wife, and I don't know anything more. Now, see, the thing is, they believe that they are, when they are talking to somebody, or they are friendly with somebody, that, okay, it is just friendship. But okay, but I keep telling them, this is a conversation that I have, that the girl may not be thinking like that. She may be thinking it is more than friendship. So you are saying that there is a line to the commitment, and she may not be thinking like that, because it makes, and it is not just about girl and boy. It can be between any two individuals, that because two individuals are involved in defining the relationship. So you think it is only till this, and the other party may not be thinking. And now, again, I'm not qualified enough to speak on all the girls who are thinking, and again, all girls may not be one stereotype. Now, I'll tell you one incident that happened recently, and hopefully my younger son, he learned a lot from that. My younger son has a close friend in Bangalore, and he had a girlfriend, and in his view, he had gone, that relationship was over, and the girlfriend understood that the relationship was over. But in a few months after that, the girlfriend started acting differently, and said that you have to marry me, otherwise whatever, or you have to come back to me. I don't know if it was marry me or not, and otherwise I'll commit suicide. And this thing, see, the good thing still with my sons is that, they communicate everything. Okay, so he is going through this. So he is advising his friend and counseling his friend, and he is going through this. And through this period, there were 7 days of intense things happening. And I was telling them, now, if she's threatening this, you should take advice. You should go to the police. You should go to the lawyer. and so on. And they did not. The people, they went to a lot of counselors, professional counselors. They went to some lawyers also. None of them gave them the right advice. Finally, this girl committed suicide. And so that was, of course, a very shocking thing in everybody's lives. And we went through this. The reason I am saying this is, see, what I think as a boy, now that girl may not be thinking in a similar manner. As far as this guy is concerned, he has done nothing wrong. Now, she expected more, and we were closed quite some time back. Now, who understands this? See, today I think that things have become more open, and on a number of areas. But for culture to change, for stereotypes to change, for traditional expectations to change, it takes more than a generation. And you just tell that girl that no, you are equal and everything is great, you are on your own, you earn your own money, men don't matter, and why should you have a relationship, and so on. And then the girl doesn't change like that. She may still want to be close to a boy, and the boy needs to understand that, from this point of view, that I cannot have it just the way the current trend is happening. The current trends at one end may be very different from what the masses and volumes are thinking in the country. So so this is an experience, this is a journey that we are going through now. What is accessible, it depends on how much my sons want to access. Okay, and I believe today that they are communicating everything. So, and that is a good thing. So what I tell my wife is, don't be judgmental, and she also has her views, and I have my views on what is going on and whether this is right, wrong, and all that. Now, my view is that we must not be too strong about our views with them. Inside, I am very strong. With discussing with my wife, we are very strong in our views. But if we express our views too strongly, they'll stop communicating. It is important that they communicate. It is important that we know each other and what is going on, and communicate honestly. And I think that's an important point. And so long as we don't want our expectations to be pushed on them, but we can tell them the consequences. We can give them incidents and stories. Okay, so based on that, some equations will develop, and I don't know the answers here, on how it should develop and what will happen.
Thank you so much, Kalyan, for that very deep understanding.
I just wanted to touch upon the core that Sanjini has been trying for us to kind of reach into. What do you do with conversations around sex, sexuality, all of that? Because and especially in a cross-gender environment like mine, so for example, period talks, do you do it? Are you even qualified to do it? Do you even know the subject well enough to do it? For example, my own example was that, quite honestly, I'm no expert, right? So the only way I could have actually had that conversation was to actually ask my daughter to take a class for me and tell me exactly what she was taught in class and what she's experiencing and how can I help.
You don't need to be qualified. You need to be available. I think that is
so
important.
And then so for me it was the biggest journey of my life, because while you know it, you have seen it happen all your life around in your home. It's a subject which you don't really put on the dining table and discuss, and it's not easy. So I had to actually literally put that subject on the dining table and discuss. And then you also realize that sorry.
Yeah, that was a conscious effort on your part. Yes.
Yeah, and then you also realize in the process that maybe you should not take all that's happening around you in the media too seriously. Most of the kids have so much access nowadays that you don't necessarily need to have this conversation also. If they want to have it with you, great. You have arrived in fatherhood, enjoy it. But if they don't want to have it with you, it's absolutely fine, because there are other people in their lives also who are equally responsible, and where the conversation, that teachers are having this conversation, friends are having this conversation, mothers are having this conversation. If you are one person who does not have this conversation, it's okay. It doesn't really matter. You should not be judged, or you should not be judging yourself too harshly either. Now, the second one, which is even more interesting, which will come a little while later, right, is around sex. Because like Kalyan said, times have changed, and people are experimenting and exploring, and it's perfectly all right to do that. But in that process, there is a very significant chance of getting emotionally hurt. And then they will come back to parents. So parents can't also leave aside that responsibility, saying that times have changed, I need to get used to it. You don't get used to it. You deal with it. And when you deal with it, that also has certain other kinds of conversation. For example, today we have a nice amount of laugh when we watch two people kissing on screen because the subtitle says kissing sound, So sometimes my daughter and I laugh at it and say, why would they need to write that? Because you can hear the sound. Sound is a universal language, right? So, but then in the process, you can also take the conversation to that direction. Look, and one of my funny conversation with her is that, look, remember one thing, that we all have a finite number of kisses before we start losing interest in it. So you must keep some for the person who matters most for you while you go out exploring, because you shouldn't have be in a situation where you stop enjoying it by the time you come to the person who matters to you. So, these are interesting, easy ways of having these conversations,
Exactly. Exactly.
Very interesting. Hariram, just though you are about to start on this journey, your daughter is, you should be thankful your daughter doesn't speak as yet, because she'll start speaking soon. But
once she does,
welcome to the club. A quick thought on how you plan your parenting, or how you think. You cannot really plan it. It's going to be an adventure. But yes, how do you think you will become a father to your daughter?
See, couple of points. One thing many people do say, I am available. My child can talk anything that he or she wants to me, but they don't talk to you, right? Why does that happen? It's because till then you have exercised your authority to control the child and your power to control the child, that the child does not find you comfortable enough to discuss those topics, right? I think that's the core thing that we need to address before we go there. You can easily say I'm available, but why doesn't the child talk, right? Even Prabhash ji said some parents, the fathers, children talk everything about freely to them, and in some cases they don't, right? But why don't they? It's because one, they don't, you have become a boss to them. That's one way of saying, like, you won't talk about your crush to your boss, right? So the same thing happens at home. They see you more as somebody higher. So my approach is going to be, I want to make sure from now itself that I don't get into that situation by the time my daughter reaches teenage. So I will try to, my approach is to minimize my authority and power as much as possible. Then you will ask, what is the alternative? You need to show children the way, right? You need to direct them. They will make mistakes. So I propose the alternative to authority is you negotiate. You bring something to the table. You want your child to, sleep at 8 p.m. You will say something like, I will play with you from 7:30 to 8, right? So if you bring something to the table as a means of negotiation, today I am bigger and I am stronger and I have a louder voice and I can say, hey, go to sleep. Don't talk back. I know better, right? But then when she becomes 12, 13, she will still see me as a boss and she will not tell me about any of these topics that we are talking about. So I should start right now. I should not abuse my power. I should see how I can spend time with her and become a friend right from now, so that she feels comfortable about talking about, so that she is accessible, right? That is one point. And second point, I think it's important to realize is there is a lot of taboo among sexual topics in our culture. And the problem with that is you can say, I'm not comfortable talking about this. Say a parent says, I have no idea what homosexuality is or what gender identity problems are. But the thing is, if you never talk about these topics, your children are talking about all these topics among themselves. They are watching movies about it. So if they don't talk to you about it, then you really don't know them and understand them further, and you are not in a position to come back at all. That's when you get into a situation where they don't even talk to you about these things. So one interesting thing, that related topic that I can share is, before this, the last Zoom conference that I attended was with some doctors, and some of them spoke about sexuality and such topics involving parents. And one thing, a doctor, this is not somebody's opinion, but a doctor said that, it is perfectly healthy for parents to do things like hug and kiss in front of their children. But in our society, we don't do that. First of all, many think that it's wrong to do this at all after you have children, right? We have children, all the physical life, the point is done, so we don't have to do it anymore, right? And even if they do it behind closed doors. You turn away when a steamy scene comes on TV, and that's how you treat it. But ultimately, if you look at it, it's no different from eating food or drinking water or going to the loo, right? So that amount of openness can be there. I mean, of course, it is private for a reason, and certain things have to be kept in private. But we can be a lot more open, and that is another direction that we should move towards as a society. And this is most important to parents. You can shy away from all these topics, but the children are talking about these things themselves. They are playing games and they are watching shows. It's going to be harder and harder to censor children now, right? They can, anything that they want to watch. So at least the best place you can be is they come and talk to you about it. So that openness should be there. I mean, to summarize what I said, number one, move away from a space of authority. Number two, be more open to everything, and don't look at sexual topics as taboo and something that should be swept under the carpet. That's how I look at this.
Very well said. Very well said. Thank you. Yeah, sexual honesty is something that is missing from our society. Let's be frank about it. It's,
yes,
there's a huge opaqueness. Thank you for saying that.
And that is why I love Ayushmann Khurrana and his ability to bring it to our homes in very easy to discuss conversations.
That's more important, actually.
Yeah.
Not just discussing it and being available and being accessible and consciously doing things. It has got to be a normalization of the concept. It's something that is normal to discuss, normal to happen around you. It's normal. That's a very interesting aspect that Hari brought up. So I think we've had a very invigorating and very interesting session with the parents, and it's really, we would like it to continue and go on and on. But we have, I think, overshot the time.
Last question to each one of you, each of the four fathers.
Yeah.
Just in one line, please.
That is what
one line that you take away from today's discussion.
Final takeaway. Yes.
Yeah. Just one line. What you learned, what you realized, or even if it is something that was a part of your own sharing, what is the one thing that stood out for you? If we can come to maybe Kalyan first.
Yes.
No, enjoy the journey, learn as you grow. Don't be bogged down by expectations. It's a journey, and enjoy it.
Madhukar?
Same, Kalyan explained it in a nutshell. You have to enjoy the journey, and expectations always reduces joy. So expectations should be controlled. Let the child grow up. Let her choose her own fate. Just be a guide. In case it is required at the last moment, you can always extend your hand and help. That's it.
Very well said. Hari, last one thing, though you did summarize brilliantly already, but yes. One line.
Yes, so I have similar thoughts among, to what Kalyanji and Madhukarji said, but I would like to put it in different words. That is, I often cringe when people use the word mold, because that's a mold is an expectation, right? You already decided what your child should be. And when people often say, I want to mold my kid, I don't like that word. So my one sentence would be, don't try to mold your children, because you have no idea how the mold looks like.
Right. So true. Yeah. So true. Yeah.
Prabhash?
So if you look at it, there's a poem by Robert Frost, the Road Not Taken. And one of the things that, and I actually wrote a Hindi version of that for myself, which says that, look, अगर मिले कहीं दो राह है, कोई एक राह पकड़ लेना, इस राह भी एक मंजिल है, उस राह भी एक मंजिल है. So I genuinely believe that a person has a station in life, and they will find that station. Parents can be at best be like Google Maps, which tells you the various routes available, but ultimately the choice is still yours to take whichever route you want to take to reach your destination. And unless Google takes control of your steering wheel also, which is where the problem lies with parenting. If as Google I stay away from the steering wheel and just focus on being the map that I need to be, then I think we will have great children, whatever they become eventually, because I also don't judge them on their economic might, because I have seen beautiful children out there whose economic might be far lesser than other children, but they have proved to be great citizens for both the country and for their parents. So there's nothing else you can be more proud of, as a parent. So, and the other part that I genuinely believe, and I said this earlier also, is that I believe with Mahatma Gandhi, and he's the father of the nation, so all fathers can learn from him, right? He changed his career at the age of 48, right? So what is to say that what I do right for my children at 26 is still relevant at 48? So let them explore that, and they might change their careers as many times as they want to do it, and it's absolutely the right thing to do for any human being, because at the end of it, you are not going to carry any of this with you. The only thing you're going to carry with you is the journey that you took.
Thank you for that. I would pick up on Prabhash's word and really try to sum my learnings from this session before I hand it over to Nidhi to close the session for all of us. That just as you said, Prabhash, and that was very well said, parenting is like a map. And to add to that one sentence, that the map is not the territory. The map is not the territory. Parenting is perhaps like the map. It gives an indication, but it is oftentimes not even to scale. And the territory, the real beauty, the stopping to smell the flowers, the real beauty of the nature cannot be captured in a paper map and with lines on it to mark the political boundaries or the geographic, features of it. Just like that, parenting will remain a map. The children will be the territory, and the sky would also not be their limit. They would be the universe of themselves. What a lovely session it has been. Thank you.